Okay, folks, welcome back. This is our midweek review for the ICT Mentorship for March 25th, 2020. It's hard to believe how fast almost 1/4 of the year has gone by. Very impressive. It's notwithstanding, there has been a lot in the first quarter of the year, so it begs the question, what does the remainder of the year hold for us? Alright, so here is the economic calendar for the remaining portion of the week. Tomorrow is Thursday. We have medium impact retail sales for GBP. Then at New York Open, we have the official bank rate, votes, monetary policy summary, and an official bank rate announcement, high impact for GBP. 8:30 a.m. we have high impact unemployment claims. Expect to see a ridiculous number that it's going to spike up a lot. You can see the forecast number there. It'll probably be above that. And final GDP and G20 meetings all day. Finishing the week, 8:30 a.m., medium impact core price index and personal spending. So let's go over to our charts. Here is our dollar index. This is our daily chart. We've been consolidating after running just short of that $1.03 level. You can see the high was formed here at 102.99, so only off by 1 point. Very next day, it went to a high of 102.98. And we have been retracing since then. I covered the last video that this high here may act as a breaker. Now, it's better if the dollar is bullish if it doesn't touch this high, because the support and resistance crowd would be looking at that saying, okay, this is a resistance broken here, so therefore if it trades back down to it, it'll act as support. I like the idea of this buy side and balance, sell side inefficiency here. I have the 100.30 level noted. Let me see if I can, and then little time things here showing. But the level is actually 100.30. Okay, you can see the orange level. So that particular price level, if not the very low, being breached or touched on this 100.77. So we may see some sensitivity there. Now, the enormous number of unemployment claims in the U.S. tomorrow may create a great deal of volatility for the dollar index. If we careen lower than this old high, completely filling in this, we have a fair value gap here and an order block. If we close, okay, this is real important. If we close below the main threshold of that down close candle, or what would otherwise be a bullish order block, then the dollar index may be, in fact, in trouble, and bullishness might be canceled out. So I'm giving you the line in the sand that provides me the condition, okay, or the catalyst for me to remove my bullishness on the dollar. That means it has to close on a daily, has to close below the mean threshold of that order block. Otherwise, I'm anticipating some measure of recapitalization. On the news wires, you can Google this yourself and you can see that they have been tossing the digital dollar around, and I've been getting crushed with emails in regards to that. I don't personally know what to do with the news regarding that. I don't know if that is the currency that would replace Bitcoin. For those that are here that trade crypto, my stance has been this. All of you have been holding out for that as the savior currency and the ultimate replacement for the dollar index or dollar. in this condition that we see globally, my question is why isn't Bitcoin going to 35,000 right now? Why isn't it going to 50,000? See, it's missing its opportunity, in my opinion. So if it was in fact what everyone has been hoping and praying for, right now is the moment it should be going parabolically higher. Like, it should be going ridiculous. It should be going up 2,000-3,000 points, every single day. It's not. So it's not shining in a moment where it should be. Does the digital dollar come out and knock Bitcoin out of the way, and it becomes what you all are expecting Bitcoin to be? Personally, I'm watching that. I don't know. I'm not claiming to know. I've been spending the majority of today and all the way through last night until about 4 o'clock in the morning, running on very little sleep. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm tired. There's so much information coming out. I'm trying to process it and filter out what I feel is important, at least for the week that we're working with each session. So I don't know, and I think it's understandably so for anyone to come out and just basically admit that we don't really know what to expect here. There's been a lot of stimulus and things injected right now, and the stock market, which I'll cover as the last portion of the video here today. I'll look at the S&P for you, cover it, and give you my view. But we don't know what type of repricing that the markets will go through. I do not think that we have bottomed on the stock market, despite what you're seeing. And they're going to say, oh, it's this, it's bullish, it's coming back. The stimulus packages are taking effect. Man, we're 2 quarters, 3 quarters away before anything starts to be seen in the real market. Not the equities prices, but the actual market that makes these stocks money. Okay, none of these companies are making money. All these talking heads and people, and Trump included. Okay, when they start beating their drum, saying, "Look, we had a record day in the stock market." So what? Look where we are from the high. There's nothing bullish about this. Nothing bullish. Okay. So the uncertainty is going to cause people to still seek safe havens. I think the bond market's still going to rally. I think that the dollar index is going to still flex aggressively against other foreign currencies. But it's waiting to see what the unemployment numbers are tomorrow, because it'll act as a beautiful smokescreen. Now, everyone's anticipating a really horrible number. I would like to see it be so much larger than the forecast that they price it aggressively into that number lower and into the levels I've outlined here on the daily. And then when everybody wants to short the dollar, then watch the Fed price it higher. And then to me, that's the perfect scenario. If I was making the market for the dollar, that's what I would do tomorrow. I would wait for the number. They already have the numbers, obviously. So the playbook would be, as I'm outlining it now, in an ideal world, if it's bullish, they'll use the maximum pessimistic data that's coming out. Everyone's expecting it. So price it aggressively lower into the number as the number hits the market tomorrow. Find the low and then start sending it higher, and it would completely take everyone off guard, and it would resume its safe haven role. That's personally what I would do, but of course, I'm not making the market for dollar index. So let's go over to the hourly chart. You can see that midpoint here, 100.30. That might be a sensitive level to hit. Small little fair value gap, it resides there as well. If it has to go through that and completely trade below the boundaries of the fair value gap or BISI on the daily chart, that's the lower end of that and the higher end of it, the consequent encroachment of that gap, it may want to spike down and clear up some of the liquidity that resides below here. Moving to the 15-minute time frame, you can see there's a lot of liquidity here, relative equal highs here, back here, and they left this high and this high here. So there's a lot of trailed buy stops. Okay, so there's a lot of liquidity layered in here. So what we see tomorrow in response to that unemployment number, do they come out with another economic announcement that something else comes into the marketplace and that supports the idea of what I'm saying here, where they run that buy side liquidity? There's a lot of folks that are out there trying to sell short the dollar index, and they want a short dollar. To me, I don't want to do it. Okay, I'm not in any trades. Okay, zero trades. I get a lot of emails in the last 3.5 weeks and asking what I'm trading, where's my money. I'm sitting in cash. I'm not doing any trading. You have no idea what could happen in a situation like this. No one does. And I'm not standing in a position where a black swan event takes me out and I lose a great deal of money, sanity, and I wouldn't be able to relax being in the marketplace right now. So my biggest advice to you right now is do the same. Don't try to be some hero where you can go on the internet and say, I wasn't a wussy, I traded in this volatility. Only noobs, okay, or gamblers or pretenders that ain't really trading but just a demo account are wanting to do that. And it's ill-advised. Don't do it. Let's go back out to a daily chart. I've done my discussion on the dollar index, so we'll see what it does tomorrow in response to that. All right, so euro dollar. All right, so here's euro. Now, you had a level here, support broken that should have been resistance. It didn't happen. You have a lower here, which is support broken, wasn't resistance there. Is it resistance here? I don't think so. I like the fair value gap here. It may want to come back up into that, and that might be our catalyst tomorrow with the unemployment number for the dollar index. Now, if we get a really wild spike on the dollar going lower, euro could trade up into this bearish order block. The low of the tail of the candle, or just the low of the candle rather, to its open. That's what these two blue lines are. It could trade up into that because that is your gap, and you could split that also and get consequent encroachment between the two levels. I didn't have that there because I wanted to keep the charts clean. But I'm watching to see if there's any sensitivity in here. If it runs through that, my attention goes right here to this bearish order block. Now, if we trade above and close the mean threshold of the bearish order block here, then that's, in my opinion, very bullish for euro. But it has to close above it. It can't just trade there and then trade off. Then I would not see that as exceedingly bullish. But if it trades above the mean threshold of that bearish order block, or the green candle here, if it trades in the body from open to close, split that in half with a fib, that 50% level, that's your mean threshold. So if it, whatever that value is, I'll leave that to you. If it closes above that tomorrow, then that is extremely bullish for euro, and the dollar may be, in fact, slipping, going lower. Hourly chart, you can see that old fair value gap on the daily just being highlighted here. Then we have buy side liquidity, and then we have fair value gap in here, old lows, and that's that bearish order block on the daily. So we'll see what it wants to do. I don't like the fact that we have these lows in here. I just don't trust it. We're spending a lot of time consolidating with a retracement. So in my mind, what this may simply be is it's pausing and building in sentiment, like it's creating a low, and then the next round of selling, if we get that higher run on dollar, it should be very sudden, violent, extreme big ranges, that type of thing. If it doesn't provide that type of price action, then it will be just running to 103.50 and fall short of 104, unless it's explosive price action on the dollar. Then we won't see this area here with equal lows on euro be taken out and continue. It would just go down below that, sweep it for anyone that was trying to catch the bottom, and then euro would be bullish at that point. But it's a matter of how we trade post employment numbers tomorrow, and what manner. Is it slow and steady? Is it violently rejected after the numbers and the levels I covered on the dollar index daily and what I mentioned on the daily chart for euro? They have to agree. If they don't, then what I'm outlining here isn't going to hold. It won't have any relevance to what we see on Thursday's price action and into the close for the week on Friday. 15-minute time frame. We're already above the old high here, so we're looking for it to trade up into that old fair value gap there, and it come down, cleaned some sell side liquidity out here, and then rejected that. Same thing here, fair value gap, consequent encroachment, rally. So what I'm looking at is all of the opportunities for them to come back and take out trailed sell stops, all the sell side liquidity, relative equal lows. They came down, then it rallied. Came down below relative equal lows, and then it rallied. Equal lows, came down below it, and then it rallied. So it's picking up the normal institutional order flow, and when it does, it's using it to stage the next rally higher until we get to areas like this, or what I outlined just above it on the daily chart. That might be that turning point, or where it has reached for a premium, and then if it is bearish, it would react at the levels I outlined on the daily. Otherwise, as I mentioned on the daily chart for euro, if it trades and closes above the mean threshold of that bearish order block on the daily chart of the euro dollar, then that changes the tide, in my opinion, for euro. All right, so here's British pound versus US dollar cable. So we have these old lows in here. Support broken, term resistance, maybe not. Went to consequent encroachment of the fair value gap that resided between this candle's low and this candle's high. The original fair value gap began at this candle's high, and this candle's low was the complete fair value gap. Does it go just above this high here, hit consequent encroachment of that, and then fall off with the official bank rate tomorrow? We'll have to see in regards to that, but I personally think that it could spike up, because I don't like the old idea of just support resistance, hitting this and then going lower. I like the fact that it goes above that, clears out the liquidity that is resting above this right here. Okay, so in other words, what I'm saying is this. It's your price action lesson for the video for today. When we look at old highs and old lows, standard theory for support and resistance, which I don't subscribe to that, but I want to give you my view on it. This old low was broken on this candle here. Now we had traded back to it today, went above a little bit. Now that's a level that we would identify anyway, because it's a consequent encroachment, or the midpoint of the remaining portion of SIBI. So this one big down close candle has been exceedingly stretched out, and it offered primarily sell side. So the market hadn't been offered enough opportunity on the buy side. So it went up to this portion of this long down close candle. The very next candle, it wicked up into it to this point here. So from that point here to this candle's old low, there resided an imbalance still of sell side. The next candle, it opens trades up to this point. So the two red lines I'm showing here, let me move it out of the way so you can see it. The two red lines that are marking this low and this candle's high, that is what I'm highlighting. Okay, so that's the remaining SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. Whenever we have an imbalance, we do not hold to the fact that other schools of thought require or anticipate a complete rebalancing of that range. That's the difference between what I talk about and other people claiming to understand imbalances. I would like to see the market go through this, completely rebalance, and then trade through it and stab into this one here and rebalance, or go to the consequent encroachment of that level, which would also be these equal lows. So the liquidity that would normally generate around this blue level here, which is the old low, they want to sell short. Anyone that sees this price action here, they think, okay, well, now this is an easy sell because it went back to an old support level, broken, now turn resistance. So my expectation is always at that moment, I want to see the fair value gap that resides just above it, and that's here. Now, don't take my word for it. You want to go back through your price action and look at different time frames, different asset classes, and you're going to see this is actually many times what unfolds. But the key is there has to be a fair value gap just above the old low. Now, this is reverse for situations when price has broken an old high and it's coming back to what would otherwise be seen as an old high broken as resistance, now turns support. It's just basically the same thing I'm outlining here, just upside down. Okay. In other words, you would be looking for a fair value gap below the old high that it ran through, which again would be the opposite of what I'm outlining here. And the reason why it upsets and disconnects the participants in the marketplace, because they see the rally through, if it does in fact unfold, they'll see this low as, okay, it's not really support, broken, turn resistance, and it shifts internally their sentiment. In other words, if cable trades up to this level here, everyone's going to think, okay, well, this is bullish, when in fact all it's done was ramrod all of the liquidity that anyone that wants to sell short at this low, they're going to view that low, and just a bit above it, they're going to put their stop loss in to protect their short. The algorithm will run through that and stretch to what we teach here as the next logical premium array. So this is the rebalance point above this old low. Now, some of you that are looking at this and say, well, wouldn't that be the imbalance above that high here? I'm sorry, above that low here? No, it's too shallow because it's too close to proximity of this low. So they're going to be using the price levels just above this blue line for their stop loss. So they're not going to want to have a stop loss that far away. They're going to want it just some level on a 5 or 15 1-hour chart. They're going to use a stop loss just above that. When we go down to a lower 1-hour chart, you'll see what I mean. But essentially, when it expands up into here, it changes sentiment on a retail level. They will view it as bullish, but really all it's doing is going to the next logical premium array. And then this is where we'll study to see if there's any willingness to go lower. So tomorrow, again, with the official bank rate, I'd like to see it aggressively run into that level at the time it releases the number. And then we'll see if it gives up the ghost and goes lower as a result. Okay. So again, tomorrow's New York session is going to be very, very eventful. And if I see anything, I will draw your attention to it. Drop down into an hourly chart. Okay, so here's an hourly. So we have that old hourly high here, and then the fair value gap that I said it could reach up into. So relative equal highs still remain, and we could see that punch up into that and rebalance to the price point of 122. Big figure to 122.05. It spread to, and then we'll see if it wants to make an attempt to clear out the sell side liquidity that's residing below here. Again, it has to happen at the moment it releases its official bank rate tomorrow at 8:30 New York time. And the market comes down. All the sell side liquidity here, bullish order block, and breaker. So you have low, higher, high than here. I like that. Then they run it down below the relative equal lows here. So this price level, that last up close candle is what I'm highlighting, trades down to that. There's your bullish breaker and reaction. All right, lastly, we're looking at the S&P 500. This is the closest continuation contract. If you click on ES, E-mini S&P, and click the ES1, that's the one that gives you a real smooth chart. But if you're going to be looking to trade, you would be using the ESM as in Michael, the contract month for June 2020, and that would be your tradable month, okay? Because you can't trade on this; it has to be actual the contract month delivery for futures. So we're looking at the old low here that was traded below here and had an indecisive candle, and then all of this is economic stimulus package news. Okay, price rallied back up. We went through the old fair value gap here, so we have rebalanced one more time, and all of this price action here is all just sucking in people, thinking it's, everything's going to be fine, when the cases are still exploding in the U.S. New York is unbelievably inundated with cases, and we're going to start seeing other states step out and say, hey, look, it's getting bad here too. We're not even close to seeing a peak in the United States. So the next week or so, it's going to be an explosion of sickly, dying. It's going to be bad. Okay, and to tiptoe around it or try to deny it or not believe it's going to happen because it's unsavory, it's not fun. It's not fear-mongering. I'm telling you these things to prepare you so that way it doesn't shock you, because I'm expecting like horror story type level, and that way my mind has already prepared to anticipate some measure of shock. And there's nothing bullish right now. There is no cure. All these things that you're talking about, they're all buying time. Okay, if you look at the United States map, and you can see the states that are shutting down, this is going to continue until all 50 states. Not one state's going to be left not locked down. Once that occurs, and I'm of the opinion that now, because we have multiple states and more are coming online with the lockdown, it's going to be quicker for these states to go under lockdown and just jump completely over multiple steps. Like in the U.S., there's been a slow rollout, especially in Maryland. I thought for sure this morning at 11 o'clock, Larry Hogan was going to tell us, hey, look, we are absolutely in shelter-in-place scenario. And he didn't. So it's like he's getting us prepared across, multiple sessions of seeing us at the 11 o'clock pressers that he's doing. The goal is every state's going to be in lockdown, and when that happens, it's going to stay like that. It's going to stay just like that. And there's a lot of resistance even locally here, where people are just saying, I'm not listening. And if you would have listened to the presser that Larry Hogan did today, he's saying, oh, look, I'm proud of everybody. Look, I have left my home and drove around, and you can see people in groups. They shouldn't be doing it, but they're doing it. And the youth are saying, they're going to do whatever they want to do, and they ain't worried about it. So it's selfish. It's completely irresponsible. But that's what would be seen on a larger scale if all the states were saying, okay, we all have to shelter in place. People will be like, no, I'm not doing it. And then they're left with a larger mess and controlling it. So what they're doing is they're rolling out state by state, and they're bringing in all the military to prevent the uprising and civil unrest that would otherwise be expected if they all said, okay, look, it's basically martial law, but they're not using that term. And they're just slowly conditioning everyone, like a farm dog does. Okay, he runs constantly back and forth, semicircles, back and forth, to wrangle the sheep into the pen. And you keep going back and forth with these news pressers, and it slowly conditions the audience and the citizens that, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was, but I have to lose something else. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but I have to lose something else. And they're gradually convinced over time in small incremental changes that they're going to be in their house. That's where it's leading to. Okay, and it's almost like everyone knows where it's going, so they're getting whatever little bit of playtime outside they can. And it's unbelievably selfish. I was encouraged today that he mentioned there are some younger folks that are falling victim to it. And, it's answering that misinformation that the youth have had about it being only, catastrophic for elderly people. In the New York area, they are going to see a huge balloon of cases. They haven't managed it well out there, and they're going to run out of equipment and beds, and then it's going to create a horror story scenario. And then it'll start registering with people. That's going to be your trigger. When New York goes into complete meltdown, other states are going to be like, okay, well, I'm not playing with this. I made a mistake. Like the leadership in Rhode Island. I'm not putting my state under shelter in place. Well, that person should never be reelected. Okay, they should take her out of there in handcuffs. It's ridiculous. I was watching it. I was like, I cannot believe these people are so irresponsible. Like, they're unbelievably irresponsible. And the folks that are in leadership saying, I'm going to trust my citizens. Well, let me tell you something. In my area, looking around, and I'm not living in a poor area, these people are stupid. They're taking too many risks. They're doing things like it's springtime cookouts, getting ready for, the family to come over as a function, and they're doing whatever they want to do. And it's unbelievable. Like, it's unbelievable the level of ignorance and just selfishness. It's just unbelievable. And when this stuff blows up, they're the contributing factors that's made it possible for that to happen. So, anyway, what does it mean for the S&P? I think that this run here may have, in fact, run its course, and then more. In other words, look at this price action here. Okay, simply looking at this retracement, and then it completely falls out of bed. That's what I think we're in. Now, does it want to run up into this area here? And I'll show you on the weekly chart why that's also something of significance too. But I was expecting it to draw into that today and come online on Twitter and say, okay, look at this area, because now we're going to see it top here, and then we're going to see the bad news start coming in and really flush this low out. All of this is wishful thinking. This is all changing in sentiment. I tweeted that they cannot short on the low. So they're going to have some kind of a retracement here. I don't think it's going to go all the way up to 3,100 and clear out stops. Like, I got a lot of emails about that. I don't see them coming back up into this area here. This is it. This is what I see. Okay. If I go out to a weekly chart, right in here, you can see the volume imbalance there. There's a bearish order block there, but right here is the volume imbalance. So at best, 26.75. That would have been like where I would expect it to trade to on any kind of hopeful, optimism. But it doesn't look like it's even got the strength to do that now. So these are the lows that I think they're going to run out eventually. Do I have a timeline exactly when? I don't know when, but I think the next wave of selling is going to be faster than this. Okay, and we're going to start seeing those 20% circuit breakers hit, and it's just it's nothing bullish, folks. Okay, I want to be wrong. Like I tweeted, I meant it the other day when I tweeted, I want everyone to be able to laugh at me and say I was so wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. but I don't think I'm going to be. Everything on this looks like they're just slowly just trying to elongate and put a delay on publicly acknowledging just how bad this really is. All these stimulus packages, while they may sound great, they're not fixing anything. No one's getting on airplanes flying. No one's traveling. No one's going out and making big ticket purchases. No one's in a hurry to go out and buy homes, even with the interest rates being as low as they are. Everyone's afraid. No one's buying anything. So the economy is screwed. And it always shows its face 1 and 2 quarters later. And I believe that whatever they do, there's going to be a second wave of this when we go into the cold months again. And I think it's going to be more virulent than we're seeing here. Because at that time, if they do try to promote the idea that they have conquered it or beat it or whatever, it'll lower everyone's expectations, and they'll be very lax in their prevention measures, hand washing, social distancing, hugging, that type of thing. So I don't believe we're done. This was just a means for them to reprice on the basis of the hopeful stimulus packages. Putting a little bit of money in people's hands, while that is commendable, to me, it's not enough. It's not enough at all. So we have not made our way through the valley yet. Okay, we are just entering the darkness. And I want to kind of mention some things that a lot of you that are in my mentorship, and again, this is my opinion, so please just, like, I'm respecting yours. I don't respond to your emails in regards to the topic I'm going to talk about briefly for here right now. I know there's a lot of people out there that believe in this movement called QAnon and these Q drops and all this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, my uncle that I lived with while I was learning how to do all this, he is 100% sold on the idea that is all real and it's all what's actually happening. He doesn't believe this is a real virus. He believes right now the elite are getting rounded up and there's going to be 150,000 people, getting arrested. And in April 1st to April 10th, there's going to be 10 days of darkness and the internet's going to go out and electricity and water will still work, but there'll be public service announcements constantly showing, what's actually going on. And I don't believe that. I believe that's all deception. Supposedly, all these people are being brought to justice. And this virus is not real. So my question is what do you do with people that I know that work in the industry that are reporting they're dying of it? At some point, fantasy's got to, fall away, and you got to be dealing with reality. And to me personally, I think that this is what scriptures say about a beast world government. And again, I know that I'm not here to try to say that, because I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all. I don't believe that anyone should be religious. That's the problem with the world. And I'm not trying to go on Twitter, and I'm not going on here to try to be dogmatic about, my views being superior to yours. If you believe in Allah, who am I to say what you should believe in? I'm only sharing with what I believe in. If the God I believe in, draws you close to him, it's up to him to do it. Nobody's convincing anyone of any religion. You're never going to convince me from whatever stance you're in, whether you're atheist or whether you're a Muslim or whether you're a Hindu, whatever, Buddha. It doesn't make a difference. None of those religions or faith ideas are going to convince me to leave what I believe in. And because I believe that about myself, it would be foolish for me to think that anything that I say would pry you away from your faith. But my faith makes me accountable if I don't say these things. And I leave it up to you and God. I don't want to preach because I know ultimately it's going to turn a lot of you off. And while that's not my goal to tickle your ears, okay, my goal is for you to understand that things that are happening right now may be entirely worse than you're being told. And that's why I'm saying, and what I said yesterday on Twitter, I believe everything that I tweeted. And there's a lot of people that are saying, they're making fun of, well, with what I'm saying. They even mentioned me by name because they know probably I'll go at them. But I'm not even going at any of them. I'm just saying, look around. Don't believe me. Just look and research, okay? Every world country is rolling out their military in their streets. Why? What are they anticipating? What are they expecting? I think that there's going to be a changing of the old guard, like the QAnon people think, but it ain't what they think is coming. They think it's going to be a new awakening, a new dawn, a new time where everything's good. And I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think that there's a world leader that's on the scene right now, and all of these nations are going to give their authority to him. That's what I personally believe. This is the perfect stage for all of that to happen because every government is grinding to a halt. And they're going to be in economic turmoil for a long period of time. So while that may not be good news, that's what I believe. I believe that. And I'm looking for things to support or negate that view every moment of my conscious day. It's growing more and more obvious to me. 7.5 magnitude earthquake in Russia. Last week we had, I think it was 5.6 or 5.9. Don't quote me on that one. But it was in Utah. And my belief is in the scriptures that outline how these things, these signs, these evidences are going to ramp up. Everyone's always said, and I heard this growing up too, oh, everybody says he's coming back. Jesus is coming back. Where is he coming back? Everyone's always said that. But when Israel became a nation and Jerusalem became its capital again, that's when the time clock starts. And one of the wonderful promises that our faith, if you're a Christian, is that when Israel becomes a nation again, Christ made he painted himself in a corner, let's put it that way, because he said the generation that sees that happen will not pass away until all things be fulfilled. So either the Bible's real or it's not. And why would everything in the world be lining up with what it's promised as future events? Why is it unfolding like a script? It's fascinating to see all these things happening. If it's real, we're going to see a lot more earthquakes in diverse places. That means places that you don't really hear too many seismic events come out of. And they're going to increase in intensity. The scriptures say that there's going to be signs in the sun, moon, and stars and in the heavens. Well, maybe you don't know it, but there's a comet called Atlas right now that is expected to brighten to the naked eye so you could see it. If they have any idea about basic astronomy, you could actually, if you have a telescope right now, and I have one that I look through, you can actually see it. It's really close to the Big Dipper. It's a little to the left of the Big Dipper, and it's going to brighten up where you won't need a telescope, like the second week of April, and which I think is interesting because that's the week of Passover. The last time we had a real big event in the heavens that I think was meaningful was the Hale-Bopp comet, and it wasn't very long after that we had the whole world change because of September 11th. And I think that we also have those asteroids that they've talked about that are supposedly coming real close to the Earth in April as well. And just to talk a little bit about something that, again, is outside the scope of the markets, but they all have a direct relationship to what could happen and manifest in price action. Because asteroids and comets are objects in our electric universe. If you ever seen video of the sun having a flare, a sun flare, that's the same thing that you experience when you walk across your carpet and you grab your doorknob on your door and you get a static electric charge and it shocks your finger. That is the same thing that our sun is doing when it has a solar flare. Now, if an object like an asteroid or a comet is in between the path of the sun and the earth, it's going to have a static charge that reach out to that object. It doesn't just stop at that object. A solar flare could just completely blow out and do some real significant things to our atmosphere on our planet. It could create a EMP-like event and basically knock out our grid, our electrical grid in the U.S. Not just in the U.S., but everywhere. It could have real impacts globally. There's so many things that are on the horizon, and to see folks that are running around pretending to understand, what's going on, that all these people are supposed to get locked up. I'm sorry, but if that's what you believe, with the greatest respect, please don't send me any more of that, because it just bogs up my email, and I'm not going to spend any time reading it, because I get a lot of them, and they're all saying the same things. And if I'm wrong, then you'll have plenty of opportunity to call me wrong and laugh at me, and it's okay. Okay? I'm not a believer in that. Okay? Nothing you're going to show me is going to convince me. So just know that there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the next couple weeks. They're converging, if you will. And I posted a remark about how I felt the real event was going to happen between May and July of this year. And I want to kind of talk about that here, because I don't want to talk about it on Twitter. It's just a feeling. I don't really have anything except for drawing some parallels to other things that I've seen. But in 2014, the IMF, they had a meeting, and the head of that at the time gave more or less a speech. And if I can find the link, I'll try to post it in the forum. Not in the link with this. It'll be in the news section, where I post things that aren't really classified under a specific category. But her speech basically said, they, as the elite, they expect 7 years of bad time, and then 7 years of good. And they expected it to begin that summer of 2014. Now, if you look at 2014 to the present, it's actually been good. It's been really, really good. Our economy's been good. The stock market's been good. But you have to look at it through their lens. That's not what they want. They don't want that. That to them is bad. So if it turns bad for us, in their eyes, that's their good. The scriptures say in the last days, things that are good will be called bad, and bad will be called good. So if you count 7 years from the July of 2014, you get the July of this year. You have to count the 2014 as one, because they were given their speech prior to that 2014 beginning. Okay, their new dawn. They're hoping for for this countdown. Okay, that was their words, actually, her words. So my speculation is this: you have July 2014, 1, 2015 July 2, July 2016 3, 2017 4, 2018, 5, 2019, 6, and now this coming July is 7. And the whole speech that she was giving pertained around sevens. And these sevens, okay, if you study the scripture in Joseph, he had basically told the Pharaoh, hey, look, there's going to be 7 years of good years and then 7 lean years. So we have to store up grain because we're going to be going through 7 years of basically tribulation. Is a model, is what that was, of the coming tribulation. So we've actually had 7 good years. We've had 7 good years. We haven't had really any major wars. We haven't had any kind of major upheavals, but things have started getting progressively interesting last fall, towards the end of the year. People were starting to uprise against their governments. And now, in overnight fashion, the whole world is turned upside down. Not just in France with the yellow vest movement. They're not going through their own little test tube experience. They're in this with us. South Africa's got it now. Italy getting decimated by it. Japan, Korea, Canada, the US. Think. Everybody's going through the same thing right now. And those that haven't yet they're going to. So my expectation is that we're entering that period of time where things are going to get very bad. Very, very bad. So if the IMF viewed that they're going to go into 7 bad years and then 7 good years, okay, because that's what I read from that. That's how I deciphered what was being said. Because if you listen to the message, and again, I'll share the link if I can find it. I'm sure I will find it, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to post it. It may not be today because I may have to go through and look for it. But if you look at the whole context of what she was talking about, these are the people that are in charge of the banking globally. And they're so mystic. They're so numerology based. They're cultic. And that's what I left. I didn't want to be a part of any of that. And if you look at how it's like magic to them, they think it's like sorcery. It's all like, it's witchcraft, really, is what it is. And to me, I think it's demonic. And that's why that side of that world, okay, is as wicked as it is. I think, personally, we're going to see something that's going to usher in a change. Right now, we have this stage being set. Everything is in upheaval. Economies are going down quick. And nobody has an answer. But there's going to be someone that steps out there and has the answer. And every nation's going to say that is their answer. And they're going to give their authority. As much as you may not want to believe it. Look, this was all science fiction to me when I was a younger man too. And no person that I had, and I got lots of Bible study resources and listened to many preachers and stuff along the years. No one ever had this narrative lined up with how this one person, this Antichrist, this person that comes out on the scene, how would he get all these nations to give him his power, give them their power or authority? What would be the catalyst for that? Nobody's seen this one coming. But suddenly now everything in my mind seems perfectly clear. Like I can see how this could very easily transition and run right into that. So what does that mean? Well, that means that markets are still going to exist. They're going to move. They're going to gyrate. There's going to be trade. Okay. But it's going to eventually move to one world currency. How does that happen? Does it happen overnight? Is it a sudden change? Is it a gradual change over weeks and months or years? I don't know that. I don't claim to know that. But I do know that while the markets are still here, we should be monitoring them. And if this person comes on the scene and creates a state of calm, that peace of mind that it's going to promote for everyone, to me, I think is a trap. Because everyone's going to be like, okay, this person has figured it out. This economic genius, okay, this person that's going to have all the answers is going to settle the hearts and fears of all the world, basically. But something changes later on, and it's not for the good. So there will be a violent display of authority. It will bring with it a lot of other things that really come right out of science fiction. And I believe every bit of that. And I don't want to be a part of it. And I don't want any of you to be a part of it, whether you believe in it or not. And again, I'm doing what I promised I said I would do. I'm giving you my view, my belief, and I'm actually excited, not because of the loss of life and the trouble that many people are going to go through. I'm excited because I know how the book ends. And I know that there's many of you in here that don't subscribe to that view and probably don't want me talking like this. But it's my house, my rules, and we're at the end of the video, so that's why I'm trying to hold all these types of discussions there. If you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to listen to it. Again, I'm not trying to twist anybody's arm. I'm not trying to convert anyone. Now, as a market analyst and educator, I try to convert everybody in the view of trading. But in this, I am absolutely respectful of everyone's choice and your willingness to tolerate or not tolerate this type of discussion. So I'm doing my best to keep it towards the end of the videos. So that way, if you don't want to hear about it, that's fine. I'm not going to get in any kind of debates with anyone because you're never going to convince me otherwise. So, and I know I'm not going to convince any of you. The Lord will draw you to Him or He won't. It's simple, okay? How much time do we spend in this consolidation from where we made a low here just below 2200 here and then the high we've had here? If we spike up into this like overnight, say some measure of continuation takes us into that, and then we trade into tomorrow ahead of the employment numbers, this level here again would be an area of importance in my mind. But it's a lot, it's a lot of distance to get up in there. But I think it would be capped by that. I don't see anything bullish above that. It's, to me, better for it to not even get there and just show its hand as weak and then start to move lower. And I think this weekend, we're really going to see a lot of New York fallout with the numbers, and more states are going to come online with being on lockdown, and new cases are going to start to show. You're not getting the right numbers. They're not going to show you all the numbers. Nobody can keep up with it. And again, it's not to sensationalize it or oversell the fear aspect, because I don't want any of you to be fearful. You should be aware of the risks and be managing it and mitigating any opportunity for you to infect yourself or your family by just simply staying indoors. I got questions about what am I doing. My children are home. We have board games, like Monopoly and Battleship and the old classic stuff. We're doing that. And we play video games. We read. We watch TV shows. I have a lot of old TV programs I watched as a child that I'm re-watching, like Miami Vice. I have the whole collection in there. I watch episodes of that. Other things that my wife and I are interested in, we spend time together. We discuss. She's admittedly nervous. She tries to do her best in hiding it. She'll ask a question, then when I start answering it, she gets nervous. She goes, okay, I don't want to hear anymore. But it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better from right now. We have to go to another point that is going to be more frightening. It's going to be more perilous. It's going to be ugly. And there isn't anything that's going to stop that. You're just going to have to weather it. Do your best to stay healthy. Do your best to stay healthy mentally. If you've noticed, I've stayed away from social media. And yesterday I had to just get it off my chest. I had to just get what was on me as a burden. And I don't care what anybody's opinion of. I may lose a lot of people on Twitter. I may lose people in this mentorship because you don't want to hear these types of discussions. And guess what? I don't care. I'm not worried about that, okay? I'm not worried about your feelings. I'm not worried about my status. I'm not worried about my image. I'm not worried about my influence. I don't care. I'm past that. I'm going to say what I want to say, but also have it measured. Like, I could be on here all day long tweeting and tweeting and tweeting and tweeting and tweeting. And it would absolutely, as much as I would not want it to be, it would create anxiety. And I don't want anyone to be anxious. I want you to understand that what might be happening, this is probably not what you're expecting to hear. And I might be wrong. I absolutely might be wrong. And for a lot of reasons, I hope I am. But for personal faith reasons, I hope I'm not. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I have a lot. And I live very comfortably. My family lives comfortably. If it's a choice between living here or going to where my faith belief leads to be with my Savior, then that's where I would rather be. So I don't, like I said, I don't have anything optimistic for you this time. I don't have a lot of it's going to get better type thing. I'm a realist, and I like I said, I'm talking to you like I would want someone to talk to me straight and let me take the information in and then digest it. And if it creates anxiety initially, work through that. It's normal. It's part of life for you to have adversities. It's normal for you to not know what's going to happen. There's going to be periods where you just simply don't know. And this one here, I don't know. Like, I really genuinely am completely in the dark about what is going to happen day by day. Nobody knows. And while I have a great deal of tools and things that, do exceedingly well, I am not trusting them right now. So if I'm not going to trust them, take heed to that and don't over believe, okay? Don't have too much confidence or be overconfident in what you've learned or what you've been able to do in the past. Because we are still in an environment that could absolutely blow you out of the water. Markets in this environment, we have never, ever seen this happen before, where every global economy is being stopped. What type of environment is that you can base your opinions and views and experience on? I have no experience in this. No one has experience in this. So I am sitting in cash. I'm not doing anything. I'm not trading anything. I'm not even demo trading. I'm not doing anything. What I'm watching is, where's the next shoe going to drop? There are so many potential black swans that could happen in this environment. I could literally talk every single day for hours and there would still be so many more potential problems that would come out so violently that would hurt you financially. If you're young and you're in here, listen, do not try to be a hero. You will hurt yourself far beyond what the capacity for you to be able to replace. You can't put enough money back in if they really do things like they decoupled with the Swiss a couple years back, where they removed the peg. You don't want to get caught in something like that. Your stop loss won't exist. It's at one price and then thousands of points somewhere else. That's what could happen in any one of these currencies. The dollar could reprice above 104 in one tick. Or it could be devalued down to 88 cents in one tick. Don't think it can happen? Why? Because you don't think it can happen? That's enough for you? Nobody has the understanding of what this environment we have just entered could materialize in the marketplace. Stocks are not done going down. They're not. Do not believe these Warren Buffett talking heads, supporting lovers. Oh, it's time to go in and buy stock. They need liquidity to get out of what they hold still. They want these people to come in mass and provide buy-side liquidity so they can distribute what they own. There's nothing else to it. That's exactly what it is. Don't believe me. I don't care. You've heard it. I've warned you. And there's nothing else I can do about it. I just say what I think I see coming, and there it is. And I'm telling you, we are not done going down. Even if they come out with a cure, the things that have happened, they're going to make themselves known in the earnings later on. And believe me, there's no V bottom coming. That's not happening. Our economy is not going to turn on a V. Who's going to believe that it's safe to just go back in the airplanes and fly around, go on cruise ships? Think about it. Are you wanting to do that? They just discovered they found the coronavirus 17 days after the people that were on those cruise ships left. There hadn't been anybody in these things, but now they found it in the surface of the cabins 17 days later, alive. It ain't a dead virus they found. That's 17 days on the surface of the inside of these cabins. Does that sound like the information they're giving you, where it can survive 24 hours on cardboard or paper and 3 to 4 days on surfaces like your countertops or metal? 17 days is a long time, folks. And now think about how many things that you touched just today. Are you going to remember what you did 17 days ago and where you touched or where there could potentially be a hazard for you? Now multiply that by all of the surfaces that you encounter going to and from your job, at your job, and then multiply that exponentially by the number of people that work with you. That's the problem with something like this. It's not an easy fix. It just doesn't go away like that. I'm under prepped, and I thought I was prepped for, good 6 months. I don't think I am. I don't think I'm prepped enough. We haven't left to go into any stores. My children have been in the house since last Friday. They have not left the home. My wife has gone to get milk and bread. And I've been out taking the dogs for a ride in the truck. And they get that every day. And it gives me a chance to get out and not have cabin fever. But I have not stepped foot in any kind of stores. I haven't gone and been around other people. And I don't think anybody should. Not right now. It's too early. And I don't know what the answer is on how they defeat all this and fix it. Because even if they have a cure, we still have economic fallout to go through later on. And none of that bodes well for a bullish stock market. It's just, you got to be practical. You got to be real. And nobody is really factoring that in. They just want to see some miraculous turnaround and the market come back to its old highs and go higher. And they can cheerlead and say, we made America great again. We're the strongest nation in the world, yada, yada, this. And it's just, look, I'm an American. I would love for that to happen. I would love to be able to see that happen and say, I was wrong. And I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. But you have to be realistic. What's the likelihood? What's the real likelihood of that happening? Look around. It's getting worse. There's no reason for you to go into any of these markets and risk. And if crypto is that bastion of hope that everyone claimed it was going to be, well, let's take a look at it. Here's Bitcoin. This is all you get. That's all the rally you get. Why hasn't it gone back above 10,000? Why hasn't it gone to new 20,000 plus? It's not. It's not doing it. And it should have done it. And that's what I tweeted before. I said, this is the moment. If Bitcoin is everything everyone says it's supposed to be, then it should be running unbelievably higher. And I wouldn't have been surprised at that time because, if I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I tried. I said, okay, here's the moment. This is the moment. What else would that currency move in as a replacement for when everything around the world is falling apart? Think. Why isn't this thing going parabolically higher? Because it's not the savior. It's not the white knight. It's not the superhero currency that you thought it was going to be. Does it mean it goes to $100 like I've said in the past? Maybe. Does it stay in a range that doesn't do anything? Probably. Does it drop a little bit lower below 3,000 and maybe go into 2,200 or 2,500? Most likely. But it's not showing any signs, none whatsoever, of people buying into this thing and it going to all-time new highs and just think about it. In 2017, if someone gave you the scenario of what we're living in right now globally, you all in crypto, if you're here in this mentorship that are trading crypto, you all would have been like, oh, it's going to go to 150,000 Bitcoin. That would be it. That would be the thing. And don't lie and say you wouldn't, because you would. I would have said the same thing. Remember, I was calling it from 6,000 to 10,000, and then 10,000 I said it was going to go to 20. And then right under 20, I said it ain't going to 20. It's going to 6,000 and then 3,000. Prior to that, right before 20,000, if someone would have given me the scenario like we're living in right now, I would have said the same thing. 50,000, 75,000, 100,000 Bitcoin. That would have been my predictions back then. if someone gave me this scenario, like what would I expect? So now, given that, why aren't we seeing it happening here? Because it's not going to do it. So now there's a digital dollar that's getting ready to come out. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Bitcoin when it does. What happens if the money that they're promising that they got to give everybody in the United States, they have to receive it through the digital format? Does that mean anything to you? It does to me. And I'll talk more about that this weekend. Until then, be careful. Do not trade.